11 Cavalry in 1965 war. This is a part of the book Pakistan Army Tank Regiments in 1965 war. As you can see, this is a historic photograph of the 11 Cavalry officers about 2 or 3 days before the attack in the concentration area in Gujarat. And as you can see very clearly, the commanding officer Colonel Aziz, wearing glasses, is in the center. Along with him is the famous Muzaffar Malik, the second in command of the battalion of the regiment. Tall Yahya Afindi, as you can see on the right, very prominent. Other people are not as prominent as Afindi. Very tall and imposing in height. Sadly, a bad military historian. 11 Cavalry's background. 11 Cavalry was amalgamation of 1st and 3rd Punjab Cavalry, both raised on 18th May 1849. The two were amalgamated in 1921-22 to form 11 Cavalry. 11 Cavalry fought Second World War with armored cars. Like most British Indian Army cavalry regiments, tanks were issued to 11 Cavalry in 1953. The regiment had no war experience of using tanks like most tank regiments of Pakistan Army in actual war. All commanding officers of 11 Cavalry after 1947 were originally from other regiments. This led to an atmosphere where the officers were not really welded with the commanding officer. M47 tanks were issued to 11 Cavalry in 1962 and M48 tanks in 1963. Needless to say, the regiment's proficiency with M48 tanks was not ideal. One squadron had M36B2 tank destroyers, which was almost totally obsolete. Out of the three tank squadron commanders, Raja Iqbal was the best and Inayatullah Asghar the worst and most pathetic, having served mostly in administrative postings. And ideally, the worst tank squadron of M36B2 should have been given to Inayatullah Asghar, and the second M48 tank squadron should have been given to Mian Raza Shah, a most dashing officer. However, Asghar was given A squadron based on the absurd formula that he was the senior most. Raja Iqbal commanded B squadron and the regiment's most dynamic officer was given C squadron, which had moving coffins known as M36B2 tanks. The unit was commanded by a 19 Lancers officer who was originally 2 Lancers. He took over the regiment in April 1964 and was not popular as he was a hard taskmaster. Colonel Sardar Yahya Afindi, who had a personality clash with him, spared no effort to run Aziz down and to unjustly portray Aziz as the sole cause of 11 Cavalry's poor performance in both Cham and Philora. The reality was that Aziz found a very relaxed and carefree regiment and tried to rectify the situation. This led to Aziz's unpopularity. The fact that the regiment was too relaxed and carefree were apparent in Cham battle and glaringly exposed in the Philora battle. Unit role. 11 Cavalry was the most unfortunate tank regiment. By a very unfortunate twist of fate, the regiment was placed under command Brigadier Zafar, a thoroughly rigid and incompetent officer. A very mediocre plan was imposed by headquarters, 12th Division and 102 Brigade Zafar on 11 Cavalry for operations in Cham. The regiment poorly equipped C squadron with most obsolete and technically half-dead tanks, was tasked to support the 102 Brigade's secondary effort, 13th Punjab attack towards Chak Pandit. 11 Cavalry less C Squadron was grouped with 9 Punjab and tasked to capture Cham. In other words, the main attack of 102 Brigade of 12 Division B Squadron commanded by 11 Cavalry's tactically most outstanding officer was leading the advance and moved north of 9 Punjab, reaching Phagla near Cham without facing any opposition. A Squadron commanded by Major Anayatullah Asghar, a tactically very weak commander, was badly led and suffered 6 tanks hit near Cham when it rashly moved towards Tavi River. This mishap was entirely avoidable if Major Asghar was not a weak squadron commander. The Indians were so overwhelmingly outnumbered, having just one squadron of AMX 13 tanks against 2 M48 tank squadrons of 11 cavalry, that Pakistani victory was a foregone conclusion. Colonel Yahya Afendi wrongly blamed Colonel Aziz for 11 Cavalry's failure on 1st September 1965. Aziz was working in a tightly regulated, rigidly controlled command setup with 102 Brigade commander breathing down his neck. Zafar, the 102 Brigade commander, was notorious for delaying Pakistani operations on 1st September by insisting that 8 Baluch capture an insignificant post named Burjal. In all, 11 cavalry lost 19 all ranks in Cham battle on the first day. On 6 September 1965, the regiment was ordered to join 6th Armored Division at Pasroor. It reached Pasroor on 9 September and was tasked to relieve 25 cavalry on night 10th 11th September 1965. It was a ridiculously absurd decision by 6th Armored Division to deploy 11 cavalry, a regiment which had already suffered heavy tank and personnel casualties in Cham, when the division had 2 absolutely fresh tank regiments, guides and 22 cavalry. The reason for this was weak understanding of armor on part of 6th Armored Division Commander Abrar and bad advice of Sahibzada Yaqub thrust upon Abrar as an armor advisor and deputy corps commander, 1 corps. 11 cavalry was ordered to carry out an impossible task and unluckily was subjected to an Indian Armored Brigade attack the very next day. The regiment's commanding officer and second in command were seriously injured. The regiment suffered heavily and was scattered. It ceased to exist as a regiment due to weak strength and was placed under command the Guides Cavalry. 11 Cavalry lost 15 more other ranks in the Chavenda battles. Gallantry Awards: Sitara Jura 2, Tamga Jura 2, Imtiazi Sanad 9, CNC Commendation Card 7, Fatal Casualties 34, Highest in the Pakistan Army, Tank Corps. Concluding remarks: 12 Division plan was myopically dumb and overcautious, while it was facing a very weak screen position, as admitted even by the Pakistani official historian. Its commander only thought of clearing the area till Tavi, unimaginatively pushing the Indians eastwards, rather than crossing Tavi using the 2 tank regiments allotted to him and encircling the Indian 191 Brigade. 11th Cavalry was placed like a galley slave under Brigadier Zafar, who, as already noted, was a very mediocre commander. In this operational environment, 11 Cavalry's feet were tied and it was unable to do what was well within its capabilities. 12 Division operations on the 1st September 1965 were a pathetic failure. In words of Pakistan Army official historian, the Indians had only covering troops on border outposts, but the Pakistanis failed to cross the Tawi on 1st September. Shaukat Raza, the Pakistani official historian, also blamed artillery for this failure, as his official supervisors were not happy that he blamed 12th Division headquarters. This he confessed in a meeting with the scribe in Rawalpindi while he was writing this history. However, the fact that 12th Division plan was phenomenally mediocre and achieved no decisive operational success on 1st September 1965, the Indian 191 Brigade was able to carry out a dignified withdrawal and Pakistan Army was unable to dislocate the Indian 10th Division just formed. 11 Cavalry's role cannot be criticized as it was unlucky in having been placed under dumb hire commanders. However, Major Asghar of A Squadron can be faulted for being a super pathetic squadron commander. At Philora again, 11 Cavalry had the misfortune of being at the mercy of a Baluch regiment officer with no experience of tank warfare, advised in turn by an armored corps officer who had never even commanded a tank troop in actual war. Both at Cham and Philora, 11 Cavalry was placed in impossible situations, sacrificed the most in the history of Pakistan Armored Corps in fatal casualties suffered, and failed to achieve much because of circumstances which were beyond the control of 11 Cavalry. Afendi's criticism of Aziz is unjustified in the 11 Cavalry history, without any foundation and totally irrelevant, pathetically bad military history. Now, this map illustrates the 11 Cavalry operations in Cham. As you can see, the area was not very large, as you can see here, and as you can see here, map to illustrate initial deployment of 11 Cavalry in Operation Grand Slam on the eve of attack on 1st September 1965, early morning. As you can see, C Squadron leading, B Squadron, A Squadron, 9 Punjab on the left, 13 Punjab on the right. This is the Infantry Brigade. Map showing the operations of 11 Cavalry on 1st September 1965. As you can see, Raja Iqbal making a dash for Phagla, the most tactically superior officer of 11 Cavalry. As you can see, C Squadron is sent on its death march towards Chak Pandat with obsolete tanks with 13 Punjab Regiment. And then you can see A Squadron following 9 Punjab, as you can see in the center. This is the general map illustrating the operations of 11 Cavalry. As you can see, map showing operations of 11 Cavalry on 1st September, map 2 till last light 1st September. As you can see, B Squadron reached the Tavi River like this, and A Squadron also reached the Tavi River, badly handled, losing many tanks. C Squadron on its death ride hardly reached Chak Pandat because all tanks were either inoperational or destroyed. It was a suicidal mission, and it was ridiculous to allot M36B2 tanks to a good officer of 11 Cavalry. Instead, this Inayatullah Asghar should have been allotted these tanks, but this is not for us to decide. 11 Cavalry from under command 7th Division for Operation Grand Slam. joined 6th Armored Division near Gujranwala on 8th September. As you can see, it was pulled out and joined 6th Armored Division at Gujranwala on 8th September 1965. As you can see here, it was foolishly deployed at Philora while two absolutely fresh tank regiments, 22 Cavalry and Guides Cavalry, were available to the 6th Armored Division. But Sahibzada Yaqub, who had never commanded even a tank troop in war, was the Guderian heir, and General Abrar, of course, from the Baluch regiment, was clueless. As you can see, 11 Cavalry replaced 24 Brigade and 25 Cavalry here in their old position, along with 9 FF. As you can see, a very foolhardy and ridiculous plan. And then the very next day, 11 Cavalry faced the whole thrust of the Indian 1st Armored Brigade and, of course, was dispersed. Guides Cavalry did launch a counter-attack from the left flank, as you can see, but this plan did not have much effect as far as the dispersal and forced withdrawal of 11 Cavalry was concerned. Effendi's criticism of Colonel Aziz. This is Colonel Aziz on the right, and this is Colonel Khatak on the left, and this is the dinner night bidding farewell to Colonel Khatak, and Colonel Aziz from 19 Lancers is taking over 11 Cavalry as the commanding officer. Effendi, in his badly written, factually faulty, and heavily doctored history, has most unfairly criticized 11 Cavalry's commanding officer Colonel Aziz. Effendi failed to note that the attack plan in Cham was thrust upon Aziz. That Aziz, in the orders-oriented, Darbari, slavish Pakistani military scenario, was not allowed to exercise any initiative. In this process, Effendi has inaccurately and unnecessarily praised Brigadier Zafar, direct senior of Aziz, as 102 Brigade commander. Zafar sadly was one of the biggest disasters of Operation Grand Slam. His biggest blunder that delayed Grand Slam by 24 hours was ordering 8 Baluch to attack a totally tactically insignificant post, Burjal. This led to whole 8 Baluch being wasted at Burjal, apart from a squadron of 13 Lancers. Brigadier Amjad Ali Khan Chaudhry, who was direct participant, described Zafar's imperial blunder as following, quote, Cham was reached at 0830 hours, but for a hold-up in the south, where the attacking troops became involved with the Indian post of Burjal, instead of bypassing it as ordered by Major General Akhtar Hussain Malik, the battle would have been over by midday. The enemy in Cham fought stubbornly to avoid being caught while crossing the Tavi River in daylight, unquote. In this historic photograph, you can see the architect of disaster, Brigadier Zafar, in the front, and Colonel Aziz, the butt of Effendi's criticism, is in the center, and on the left is Colonel Siddiq, the CEO of 8 Baluch, also awarded a Sitar Jurat. Now, there was another theory that Zafar had been an independent brigade commander and lately placed under 12th Division and was not taking the GOC seriously. And General Akhtar Hussain Malik also was unable to assert his full control in this character, spur him, goad him, force him to be more tactically sound. This is one version shared by various officers who were there. Relief of Philora. Effendi was master in distortion of history. In his Punjab cavalry history, he raised Sahibzada Yaqub as one who was greater than Napoleon. Nothing can be further from the truth. Yaqub was a much overrated officer. No doubt he was an aristocrat with a very polished personality, but here the attributes stop. He had nothing to do with tanks in Second World War, spent most of his life as a prisoner in a prisoner of war camp. He had no war record in 1947-48 Kashmir War, lacked the moral courage to ask the army headquarters to 1st Armored Division, whose war plan he had formulated earlier. Relief of Philora was Yaqub's biggest masterpiece, disaster. Amjad Chaudhry, who was a direct participant, described Sahibzada Yaqub's role as, quote, Major General Yaqub Ali Khan's plan did not succeed because of its unrealistic assessment of relative strengths, the time and space factor, and the loose command and control structure within 6th Armored Division, unquote. This is from a direct participant of the Chavanda battles. Amjad Chaudhry further stated, quote, the plan put forward by Major General Yaqub Ali Khan sounded very impressive on paper, but I did not feel happy with the plan for its execution and its timing. 6th Armored Division had at that time only two regiments, the PAVU and the Guides. Its 3rd Regiment, 13 Lancers, had been detached to support 7th Division in Plan Akhnoor sector. The Commander 6th Armored Division was seriously handicapped by the detachment of its 3rd Regiment, which seriously limited his capabilities in a fluid battle which the plan contemplated, in which the attrition rate can be very high and therefore the number of tanks launched into battle can be a decisive factor. Secondly, enough time was not allowed for orders to reach the units who were to execute his plan, with the result that detailed planning and coordination could not be ensured, unquote. Brigadier Mahmood, who was commanding an aviation unit in the war, described the situation as following, quote, the most important aspect or such an operation is always the time and space factor, the essential element being that the relieving troops must have enough time to familiarize themselves with the ground and topographic surroundings. They must get enough daylight hours to plan and prepare their defenses. Staff College Quetta lays down enough emphasis on this aspect in all its teachings, exercises, and sand model discussions. But despite his being the commandant of the very same college, it is inexplicable how Major General Yaqub had missed this aspect. I suppose teaching is one thing, but the practical implementation of these plans is a different ball game altogether. GOC 6th Armored Division was called to Corps Headquarters at 1000 hours, where the plans were given to him. Without the GOC 6th Armored Division returning to his headquarters, the plans were passed to the Deputy Division Commander to implement. He called Second in Command 9FF and CO 11 Cavalry to the division headquarters, and at 1400 hours, they too were given the orders. Unquote. Mahmood summed up Yaqub as, quote, I believe that Major General Yaqub had much better professional acumen. He was an armor officer, was till recently the commandant at the Command and Staff College Quetta, had seen the battle in Africa in World War II, and was considered an excellent professional officer. It later proved his competence was of rather theoretic and academic nature and had little command experience. I was disappointed in him, unquote. Mahmoud described Yaqub's lack of courage as following. I suggested to General Yaqub that he should fly out with me to the area to have a close look at the battlefield to make his own mind and plans. It would give him a bird's eye view as on a sand model. In reply, he said, there is no need for that. You have given a comprehensive briefing, and I have a rational idea now. Unquote. This ends the section on 11 cavalry. In our next part, we will deal with the 12 cavalry. More on this later.